Today on In the Woodyard, I got 5 ways for you to make some money with your chainsaw. I think you could make $1,000 or more with these ideas every year. So today's idea for a video came to me through one of you. It's a guy who's a new subscriber. I haven't seen the name before, but he had a question. He asked me, he said, I see you do firewood, and I cut firewood for myself, but I'm not really interested in selling any because I just don't have that much woods, and I don't want to really go through that much work cutting that much wood to sell to make some money. He said, what else do you think I could do to make some money with my chainsaw? Because he enjoys cutting, and he said he's got a couple chainsaws. He doesn't have anything big, but he's got a couple chainsaws, and he wanted to know what else he could do. So it got me to thinking, well, there's a lot of things you could do with a chainsaw to make money, you know, cutting stuff. So here's some ideas I have. So besides doing firewood like I do was the whole idea, and obviously the firewood is the obvious one because I do a lot of firewood. But I came up with 5 ways that you can make money with a chainsaw that don't necessarily include cutting fire and selling firewood for yourself. So the first thing I thought of is you could cut other people's firewood. There's got to be people that like fires but don't necessarily have the capability to cut. Maybe they're, you know, not physically able to do it. Maybe they don't have the time to do it, but they have the woods and they want some wood cut. And the reason I thought of this is I have a friend who's got a couple acres of land. He doesn't really burn a lot of fires. They burn in their backyard fire pit, but he doesn't have a chainsaw, but he enjoys wood. And he asked me one time, he says, hey, could you come cut a couple trees down that are dead in my woods, one that fell over? And I said, sure, I can cut them up for you. And he gave me 50 bucks just for cutting the wood up for him. I didn't really want any money, but he insisted, so I took 50 bucks. And I was there maybe for a couple hours. It did it more of his favor for anything, and he was tickled pink to have it. And the trees were so dead and dry that they didn't even need to be split. They were only small ones like this. There was a couple of them I cut up, and he helped me do it. So I made some money that way. So it got me to thinking, you know, you could do that for other people. So there's one idea. So the next idea I had is something that my brother Ken does quite a bit. He has a lot of experience cutting trees down, so he's good at it and he knows what to do, and he can drop them pretty much wherever they need to go, even in tight spaces. And he makes a lot of good side money cutting trees down for people. A lot of the people that he cuts trees down for, again, don't have a chainsaw or are afraid to do it or don't have the knowledge to do it. And if you have the knowledge, I'm not saying you got to be a tree service, but there are some jobs that are pretty basic that an average person that has average skill could cut trees down for people, that trees they want gone. Obviously you got to be careful, don't, you know, drop a tree in a house or something. But a lot of the trees that my brother drops, it's a guy that's got a tree in his backyard that's a dead tree, or it's dying, or it's leaning and he wants to get rid of it before it falls on the driveway, stuff like that. And where it's basically he just goes in, he cuts the tree down because the people that want it cut down either don't know how to do it, can't do it, or they just are lazy. Want someone else to do it. So he just did a job just the other day. He got 150 bucks. He said he was there for about 2.5 hours. He dropped a tree down, and he just cut the branches off, cut it into sections. He didn't buck it up into firewood pieces. He just cut it up so they can move it around, and they were going to finish it themselves. So he made money doing that. He's done another job with a buddy of his where they cut down a bunch of pine trees on a guy's back lot, and they were leaning a direction that the guy didn't want him to go, so they wedged them and made him go in another direction. And they cut down, I think it was like a half a dozen trees, and then they limbed them, and then they bucked them up, and the guy's gonna use them for firewood. And they got 500 bucks for that job, a piece. They each got 500 bucks, and they weren't even there for a full day. So jobs like that are out there, and the key is obviously you got to know people, you got to talk to people, and you got to let them know you can do it. The next idea that I have for you, I have done this. I haven't done it for quite a while. It was about 4 or 5 years ago. I had a guy that was, our sons were friends, and we were talking at a get-together one time, and we were talking about things that we do when we're not working. And I talked to him about that I was doing firewood, and he says, I got a tree in my yard that it's a spruce tree. And he said, it's gotten so big, he said, the branches are right down to the ground now. And he said, when we mow around it, we're kind of chopping up some of the branches. And he said, I don't have a chainsaw. And he said, can I just go in there like with a handsaw, and can I trim those off? Would that work? I said, no, don't do that. I said, I'll come over sometime and I'll trim them off. So I told him, I said, just when you're ready, give me a call. I said, I got all chainsaws, I got all the equipment, I got a trailer, I can come in and I can trim the branches for you. So I went over, and it was a big spruce tree, and the limbs I cut, the tree itself was probably like about 20 inches, and the limbs were all, well, they're pretty good size, but they were swooping right down to the ground because he hadn't trimmed them for a long time. And so I basically cut a hole into there, and then I cut up and I cut around as high as I could reach, all the way around, trimmed it off tight, threw all the branches in the trailer. Actually, he did that while I was trimming. And then I told him, I said, now you got a tree here, I said, that it's forked and it's low, and I said one of the main trunk on it was fairly straight, and the other one forked off. And it was a tree that it was a soft maple, and it was probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches where the one fork came off, and it was kind of low, like only about maybe 3 feet off the ground. I said, you know, if you cut that off, it would fill in and you have a nice straight tree. And I said, it needed to be done a while ago, but I could do it right now if you want. He says, heck yeah, go right ahead. So I cut it off, and we cut it up, and I just left the wood there for him. And I didn't do it with the intent to make any money. I just did it as a favor to him. And he insisted on giving me some money. He gave me 40 bucks. He gave me two $20 bills. And again, I was there maybe an hour tops, if that. And he was tickled pink because it saved him a ton of work. He did not know how to do any of that kind of stuff. So, and I wasn't looking to make money, but I got some money. And like I said before, if you get your name out there and let people know that you can do this kind of stuff, maybe make up a business card, you can do trimming of trees for people. There's all kinds of things that you can do around people's yards that they don't have the equipment, they're not capable of. If you've got just basic equipment, you can trim a lot of trees for people and just do basic maintenance. With a pole saw, you could trim branches up in trees where they've got, you know, splits like I mentioned, trees that need to be trimmed, or some branches that need to be taken out. Quite often, I myself, I know, we have trees in our yard that as they grow, you get new shoots that will come off and grow up, and people want some of that stuff done. They either aren't capable of doing it or they just don't want to do it. So there's another way that you can make some money with your chainsaw or a pole saw or a bow saw, basically doing some work for people. The next idea that I came up with is, again, it's an idea that's not my idea. I know someone who actually does this. I have a buddy that has 2 boys. They're in their like late 20s, I would say. And they have a friend that is a builder. And the builder friend of theirs bought a couple lots that had brush and trees on it, and they needed it cleared off. So he asked them if they would come and, you know, clear off the lot for him so they could build. And so they went and did it, and they ended up making some pretty darn good money, and they got the wood that they sold. And so then that turned into something they did kind of on a fairly regular basis. They would work for other builders in the area, and they would go in and clear off lots. What they did is they found who owned these lots that were going to be developed in this small development, and not too far from here. And they went in and they cut trees down, cut up the wood, and sold it as firewood. And they got paid to cut the trees down, to clear the lots off, and they got paid to haul the brush away and pile stuff up for the guy. And they didn't remove stumps. That was done with heavy equipment. They needed the trees cut down. And then they took the wood and sold that. So they made really good money. They were making easily $1,000 per lot they were cleaning off. And it wasn't taking them more than a day and a half to 2 days just to basically clear the driveway where they needed the driveway to go to cut the trees down, drop the trees and block them up, and then to go where the house was going to go. And they were never cutting more than a half a dozen to a dozen trees at a time. And it was a real good little money maker for them, and I think they still do it. So there's another thing you could do. Get to know maybe some builders or where there's developments going in and do some clearing. And I believe the term is in the commercial industry, it's called grubbing, where you clear land off. And that's where they go in and they cut the trees down, and then they bring in heavy equipment and they take they dig out the stumps and the root balls and clear it all off. And so if you get to know some builders, whether it's residential or commercial, you could be a grubber. So I don't know if that's a word, but I've heard it a few times. So there's another one. So the next one is an idea that's going to require you to maybe own some land. For people that have property but maybe don't cut firewood, or they cut a little bit for themselves, but they may have some really nice mature trees but don't really want it logged off. There are a lot of people right now that have small sawmills, personal sawmills, that are cutting their own lumber or cutting custom lumber that they are selling. It's a very popular thing right now. If you go on YouTube, you'll see tons of people with wood miser mills and some really nice equipment now that they're making their own lumber, and people are selling it, making some pretty good money. But if you don't have the capability or have the equipment to do that, those people are looking for good logs. And sometimes they're willing to buy onesies, twosies, 3 or 4, you know, for particular little jobs they want to do. They're not looking at buying a truckload where, you know, a logger would bring in a whole big truckload for them. They want some custom type jobs where they're looking for just a specific kind of wood. They might be looking for, you know, a maple tree that is got a lot of knots on it, and so it's, you know, more burly and things like that. They may be looking, burled is the word, they may be looking for a really nice, clean, straight walnut tree, what they want to make some lumber from. They may want something that's got some unique style to it, something really different, like maybe even a box elder with the pinkish, reddish lines and streaks in it. They might be looking for something like that. You may have a tree that's something really unique that you could sell for quite a bit of money, and you could cut it down, they could come get it, however you want to do it. But little bitty jobs like that, there's always people looking for specific kinds of trees. The worst way to do it though is to cut the tree down, let it lay, and then advertise it for sale. You're gonna want to leave the tree up, find someone who's looking for it, and then cut it down. Because I've seen things on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace where people have a tree laying in their yard, you know, for 2 years. You could tell it's been laying there, and they're trying to sell it, you know, and they think they're going to get $1,000 for a walnut tree that they've cut down. Yes, there are cases where you can make really big money on really good trees, but most of the loggers don't want to deal with something like that. The real trick is getting it to the sawmill, especially the big ones. And you're going to probably have to find a guy that has a way of loading it somehow. They're going to have some type of a cradle system to load it into a trailer. And that's the hard part. I got a buddy right now that has 2 really nice trees on a lot where he used to live. That's about, I don't know, maybe 40 miles from here. And he's got a really nice walnut tree, and it's a good one. It's a really good one. And he talked to a logger about it, and they told him, you know, it's not worth it for them to come and set up, especially where it is in his yard there, because they'd have to go through a fence and around the corner and all that. But he told me, he says, find a guy that's got a small sawmill that's looking for a specific kind of wood like that, and it's a walnut tree that's beautiful. And he said they might have a little bitty skid steer they could bring in, and they could get it out for you. And he said they might be interested in it. And he said, obviously, you're not going to get what you think you're going to get. You're not going to get the, you know, $1,000 for that log. You might, but they're going to have to do the work on it. They're going to have to come in probably and help you drop it, or you drop it yourself. But they're going to have to get it out of there somehow. And that's the key, is getting the wood to market, to someone that wants it. So there you go. Those were 5 ideas. Hopefully those will give you something to think about. If you've got any ideas of your own ways to make money with a chainsaw that I didn't mention, I'm sure there's more. I'm sure you guys will come up with something, because you guys are smarter than I am. There's a lot of you out there that have been doing this a lot longer than me and have a lot of good ideas and things that you've tried and have done. And I'd be interested in knowing, I'm sure other people would. So put it in the comments. That would be great if you could. So that's it for today, folks. See you tomorrow in the wood yard. We've got a pile of wood we're going to get cutting on real soon. Between now and tomorrow, get outside, get cutting. Good night, Irene.